So this was a requested film, which I find quite bizarre because I do a thing called 10 Things Wrong With. So you'll expect most of the requests to be really bad films for me to nitpick it. Yet the girl that actually asked me to do this has said this is the best Nightmare on Elm Street film. Do you not realise what I do? You do realise what I am going to do with the best Nightmare on Elm Street film? Well, I'm Berryman, and this is 10 Things Wrong with Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is a 1987 American fantasy slasher film, and it is developed by Wes Craven, even though he didn't direct it. The film tells the story of the last of the Elm Street kids who are all actually in a mental home seeing Freddy and actually teaming together to try and stop him for a final time. The film was made with a budget of $4 million but actually grossed over $44 million when it was released, and it actually did receive mostly positive reviews. So what have I found wrong? Well, let me discuss 10 things wrong with Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Number 10. Misquote. So before the film starts, there's a big quote by Edgar Allan Poe which actually says, "Sleep, little slices of death, how I loathe them." The thing is, that was never in any Edgar Allan Poe's works. None of them. There's been lots and lots of research done on it, and nobody can actually find any reference by Edgar Allan Poe saying that. In fact, the only reference you can find is actually from 1959's Journey to the Centre of the Earth. Why put a quote from... It doesn't make sense. Really. And that is before the film started. I found something wrong with it. I'm going to have fun doing this film. Number 9. Banned UK poster. Nowadays you don't get different countries with different posters. Every country has near enough the same poster. But back in the 80s, different countries had their own posters. And the UK was no exception. I mean, the poster we originally had actually had a clip from the film where Freddy's a snake eating a girl, which lots of people didn't like. So it was banned, and then we ended up with a generic one that they use in America. It's not a good thing when posters are banned before the film comes out. Number 8. Freddy scares Freddy. Yep, you heard me. Freddy Krueger actually scared Freddy Krueger. I wish I was joking, but I'm really not. Now, at the time of filming, Robert Englund was actually also doing another project at the same time. So he was actually filming during the day his TV series, then coming to work on this film at night. So he was working around about 20 hours a day. And on one of these days, he went, after doing all this filming, he went back to his trailer and fell asleep. When he woke up, he went to the bathroom, looked in the mirror and forgot he still had all his makeup on. And it scared the sweet bejesus out of him. Sorry, saying it now, I've got to find that funny. It's not good when your lead actor actually scares himself to death by playing the character, but it's still funny. Number 7. Freddys Voice. Now, this was actually Robert Englund's third outing as Freddy Krueger, so you would have thought he would have had it nailed down by now. Except his voice was all over the place. Sometimes he talks with this, and there was a couple of scenes he was a bit high-pitched. It was all over the place. Seriously, every different scene, it was a different voice he used for Freddy. You've been playing the same character for 5 years now. This was the third film. I would have thought you would have had it spot on by now, wouldn't you? Number 6. Missing coffee. Halfway through the list and we're still actually near the beginning of this film. But at the opening sequence, Kirsten is actually trying to stay awake, and one of the ways she does this is actually get a jar of Maxwell House, nice product placement there, gets a big spoon, shoves it in her gob, except the spoon was empty. And you caught it on camera. That is a big boo-boo on that one, and I saw it. It was actually really obvious. It wasn't the only obvious mistake of this film, there's another one coming up as well. Stay tuned. Number 5. Who is the lead character? Now, this isn't the mistake I was actually talking about in the previous segment, but it's still a bit of a mistake. Now, all the way through this film, she's called Kirsten. played by Patricia Arquette, and played very well, especially as this was her first film role, and people knew she was going to be a star like she actually did turn out to be. But there is a mistake at the beginning of this film. When she first goes into the dream sequence, she goes up to the little girl who inspired the Saw franchise, I might add. Believe me, that's the same trait that Jigsaw has. And the little girl says, "Who are you?" And she says, "Kristen." "No, you're not. Your name's Kirsten." "What is it?" "I don't know. This is confusing. This is the beginning of the film. Who are you?" Number 4, safety equipment. So here we go, the big mistake that they left in this film. So one of the kids, as Freddy kills him, he actually sort of sleepwalks him off a tall building. The kid's perfectly fine. How do I know the kid's perfectly fine? Well, you see the great big yellow crash mats. Seriously, look in the corner of the screen. You can see the crash mat. Some cameraman really messed that one up, and even the editor or the director, nobody noticed. It's bright yellow. Everything else in that scene, in that frame, in that shot is black and dark, and yet there's a bright yellow crash mat. I know they only had $4 million, but come on. You could have sort of cut that out the frame a little bit, couldn't you? Number 3, crucifying the actors. I'm pretty sure crucifixion is illegal in real life, but they did do it in this film. So one of the kids, how Freddy's torturing him, he's actually tied with tongues to a bed. He's sprawled out and he's hanging above a fire pit. Except, how did they film it? Well, he wasn't actually just lying there. The bed was actually upright, so he was like that. For hours and hours in a crucifix. That poor actor, and yes, he did feel like he was being crucified on a TV set. You can't crucify your actors, that's not good. Number 2, pigs. So one of the dream sequences, she walks into the house, turns, and there's I must admit, I love roast pork, and yeah, part of me thought, that looks nice. Now, this is the issue. That is actually a real pig. Now, normally in things like that, it's just a plastic prop because it's going to be under the bright light, it's going to be under intense heat for ages, so it's going to pong. Guess what happened to that real pig? It stunk. And what made it worse is there was an actor actually inside the pig to try and make it do what it did, and that poor person had to put up with that smell. That would not have been a good day's work. I hope he got paid danger money for doing that, because I can imagine the smell. He's smelling it right now. Number 1, Unfilmed happy ending. Wes Craven actually wrote this to be the end of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Number 2 was a massive disappointment, so he's only come back on a condition that he could end it, and that was his goal. It was supposed to be it. It was supposed to be all wrapped up, and you can see that he's tried. And there was a sequence he actually wrote a script for that wasn't filmed that would have actually made it a more happier ending. The fact that Nancy was still alive in the dream world. Now at the end of the film, you just see a light come on in the Nightmare on Elm Street house, which you assume is Freddy. But if they'd filmed that missing sequence, that person turning the light on would have actually been Nancy. One scene could have changed the ending of this film. That much difference. And I think because the plan was to make this final, it would have been quite nice actually. But no, studios want to make money, so it was Freddy turning the light on. And we got even worse Nightmare on Elm Street films. Final thoughts. Now, I've said in previous videos, I'm not really a horror fan. But you know what? I actually enjoyed this. Now, I did watch these when I was a kid. Yes, I know I'm not supposed to, but hey, my mum was quite nice to me like that, lets me watch horror films. So, we all knew who Freddy Krueger was. And I can see why people rank this one the best of all of them. Because I can't actually remember it that much from when I was a kid. So, watching it again without watching parts 1 or 2, I thought I was going to struggle, and I didn't. And that's brilliant because you know what's happened in the first 2 films, because this film's explained it in such a way where it was okay. It wasn't OTT, but it was just enough. you could tell, well actually it was more the first film, I think they sort of ignored the second film. And it was done well. It was also paced perfectly. There was gaps in between the action sequences, it wasn't a long enough gap and it wasn't too short, it was the perfect length. This film's only actually an hour and a half long. So if you want to kill an hour and a half and have a good time watching a good slasher film where someone's killing lots of kids, this is a perfect film for that. Robert Englund, once again, always looks like he's enjoying himself, which is slightly worrying because he's playing a child murderer, but he always looks like he's having fun in this role. And that's the thing, it is a fun film. It's quite funny, it's quite humorous, and it does have some jump scares. What more could you ask for from a horror film? It's good, it hits all the right notes. The music, granted it's 80s cheese, but it works on this film. The special effects, granted, they're 80s cheese, but in a film like this, it works. And one of the things that also works is Robert Englund actually ad-libs. Welcome to prime time, bitch. He ad-libbed that because every time he tried what was in the script, it didn't work. And the thing is, his version worked because he knew and understood the character. Well done for the director letting the actors do what they do best. I can't actually really fault this film. Is it perfect? No. Is it cheesy? Yes. Would I recommend this? Oh, hell yes. Would I probably watch this one again? Same again? Hell yes. What am I going to rank it? What's a nice, easy 8 out of 10 berries? Yeah, seriously. I go and watch this one. Out of all the Nightmare on Elm Street films, always, this is the best one. It's so deserving to be the best one. And you can't knock that. Now, obviously it goes downhill. Surprisingly, I actually enjoyed Freddy vs. Jason, but I know the quality of the Nightmare on Elm Street films start going downhill after this one. But yeah, if you're gonna pick a horror film, go and watch it. It's fun. It kills an hour of time. You're gonna scare your girlfriend into your arms. Good night all. There we go. So that's what I think. What do you think? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Am I being too nice? Because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be people saying this film was appalling. Well, let me know in the comments below. On to next week. Well, this week we've had something horror and scary, so next week we're going to do something wonderful and magical and childish. I also need to learn how to do some magic between now and next week, so come back to see if I succeed. See you next Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.